A very beautiful morning to you here from the Federal Capital Territory, Nigeria, Abuja, that leads to Nigeria. I am Anita Patch, and of course, it's a beautiful day to start off for you here on Global Television on the program Global Morning, where we want to bring you amazing rundown of activities from newspaper review segments and the likes. But of course, as always, I don't tend to ride this ship alone, as I have my co-anchor with me in the studio in person of Mukhtar Kasim. Hello.
It's a beautiful morning, Anita Patrick. Good morning to you. Good morning to everyone watching the program.
Yeah.
It's a Saturday and it's a beautiful day, like you said, and of course, it's going to be a great time on Global Morning, as it always is.
Okay, so you want to take us back Saturday? This is Sunday.
Oh, it's Sunday. Oh, wow.
I know you have.
The hands on time.
You know, it happens. I totally understand.
Sunday.
It's a Sunday, and we have a lot. As beautiful as always on the breakfast program. Of course, we have lots lined up for you. And of course, Mukhtar knows, as always, we have newspaper review segments.
Of course, we begin with the newspaper review segment, where we'll bring all the biggest stories that are making the rounds on our dailies. And of course, we've got taste and texture. We'll bring to you breakfast the way you like it. And of course, our discussion segments will come in timely and very much important for our viewers today.
Of course, and of course, we'll also have the discussion segments where we have a whole lot of important conversation. This is the month for the men. And I always hear the men when they say, when it's Women's Month, they keep saying, women this, women that, girl this, girl. It's the men's month. So we'll have something to talk about the men's month.
I'm very excited because it's something that is very timely, because mental health, as it affects men, is a burden. Because many men struggle with this and struggle with it in silence. And we've seen so many men lose their lives. Suicide among men is growing higher than ever before. It's on the rise. So this is a conversation that every man and even woman should, of course, pay attention to and learn one or two from.
Okay, still with that, of course, like he said, mental health is very important, and we have that to talk to you about. Of course, we have an expert who will speak to us and make us also understand the dynamics and how to go about that exactly. Also, it's still the democracy celebration here in Nigeria, and of course, we're delving into that, looking at some of the issues, the sectors that we should be paying more attention to, and how that can affect the daily lives of every Nigerian here in Africa. Yeah, Nigeria. We'll start from Nigeria, of course, before we get across. Well, all of that lined up. But let's quickly start our day with you, and that takes us straight to newspaper review segment. So we'll bring all the stories making the rounds on the front page cover of the dailies. Please stay with us.
Up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
It's good to have you join us back. Of course, the dailies has a whole lot, and we have lots of papers lined up for us. We start quickly with the Sunday Sun, which we have. We have This Day newspaper, the Vanguard, the Nigerian Tribune, the Daily Independent. We also have the Punch and the likes. All of those are lined up for you. But we'll quickly start with the Sunday Sun newspaper. What a way to start the Sunday. Let's see what the Sunday leads boldly for us. The Sunday Sun newspaper leads boldly, and it has its own story that talks about the build up to 2027, and it has Kwankwaso opens up on path with Obi, and we have a writer that says expresses belief in NDC presidential candidates on one-term promise. Story on page 20 of the Sunday Sun.
And of course, still sticking to politics, let's go below that particular lead story and tell you a story that says APC internal crisis persists. And the writer here says, despite reconciliation efforts, aggrieved aspirants fight on. Details you find on page 18 and 19 of the Sunday Sun newspaper.
Also staying with politics, let's go above the masthead there. On the right-hand corner there, it says 2027 Nigerians must keep hope alive even when government fails. And we have the writer that says Adebayo, SDP presidential candidate, speaking there. That story is on page 12 of the Sunday Sun.
And just beside that story, by the left-hand corner in the middle, it says Ekiti Guba, INEC shows of massive security deployment. Details you find on page 28 of the Sunday Sun newspaper.
And away from politics, we have a story that's heartbreaking, which has thrown a whole lot of Nigerians into a sad state, where it says kidnapped general dies in captivity, buried in Castina, and of course the president mourns. And that story is on page 25 of the Sunday Sun.
A sad one, but let's not dwell on that. Move away from that story to the foremost left-hand corner. The story here says, Gowon Jonathan Mbeki Biu Akpabio extol Abdulsalami on book launch. And he has a rider that says, ex-head of state stewardship was a critical moment for Nigeria. And details you find on page 25 of the Sunday Sun newspaper.
Well, and a bit of one from entertainment, so we see a whole lot of about our mindset, and it says, I'm very intentional about maintaining modesty. Esther Otonye, Miss One Nigeria, speaking there, and story is on page 3 of the Sunday Sun, and that brings us to the wrap of that particular story.
Yeah, of course it does, and of course on the newspaper Sunday Sun, and we'll go to the next paper for review, which is the This Day newspaper. And the newspaper, This Day newspaper, has a different ball game in terms of its lead story. It goes international and says Trump, Pakistan contradict Tehran. Says US, Israel, Iran peace deal to be signed today. And he has a writer that says Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei to be buried July 9. All of the stories you find on the front page of the This Day newspaper.
Well, let's go below that. We come back home to Nigeria, still talking about the June 12th, the Democracy Day. It says Abdulsalami Babangida never discussed June 12th annulment with me, Abiola not poison. And of course, we have a whole lot of rider that leads up to that story. The first one says, Ishaya Bameyi locked inside waiting room after Abacha's death. And we have another one that says Tinubu, Bill Gowon, Obasanjo, Jonathan shower encomiums on Abdulsalami at his book launch. And also below that we have where it says President directs FCT Minister to allocate land for his African Resource Center. And that story is on page 5 of the Sun newspaper. A whole lot of stories making the rounds there.
Most definitely, Anitia. And let's go above that particular story to a smaller story here, but it's a big caption. It says Tinubu rejects terrorist demand for release of detained leaders, mourns General Abubakar. And this particular story you find on page 5 of the This Day newspaper.
Well, that's a whole lot happening there. Just a bit above the masthead there, where it says Adichie accuses Lagos Hospital of cover-up over son's death, demands accountability. Story on page 6 of the state newspaper.
Most definitely. And let's go and tell you a bit of business above the nameplate and above the mast. It says IMF, increasing use of dollar-denominated stable coin in Nigeria raises risk to monetary sovereignty. And it has two riders. The first one says, seeks elimination of alleged multiple exchange rates. And the second rider says, Waleke urges caution on IMF's prescription for additional tax measures. All of these stories you find on page 5 of the This Day newspaper.
And of course, we have a picture story there where it talks about what really went down with Abdulsalami there as well, where all the
some
leaders,
dignitaries there.
Yes, were there with him to also look at what went down and also give him all the kudos they can with this time.
Of course, he's been an elder statesman, and 84 years is a big deal for him. We felicitate with him on this big occasion.
Okay, so let's turn our focus to the Sunday Vanguard. The Sunday Vanguard newspaper has its lead story, still staying with the story about the retired general who died in captivity there. It says, retired general dies in captivity as terrorists target more schools. Okay, so when we have such information, it becomes a thing of concern. But let's take the riders just below that. It says, we won't bow to adopters' demand to free captured bandits. That's the president speaking there, President Tinubu. We also have another rider that says, kidnappers force citizens to shun birthdays, weddings, funerals, others, and that story is on page 2. Talks about dimming the light on social life right now.
Most definitely.
Because a whole lot of concerns.
Because you've got to be careful. You could just be on your business, and next thing you know, the person is in captivity. So we have to be very vigilant. But I like the fact that it says targeting more schools is something that we already know. So the security, of course, security architecture should be on full attention and alert to make sure that they nip whatever threat that might be posed in the bud, and we hope those things are prevented before they happen.
Yeah. So let's look at other stories making the rounds as well. Let's go above the masthead there, where it talks on Igbo pogrom in North. Don't blame me, go on speaking there. And then we have the writer that says Ojukwu twisted Aburi according to suits Biafra agenda. We also have another that says narrates clash with Awo over civil war arms money. We also have where it says how I stopped Murtala-led soldiers from pulling North out of Nigeria. All of that is contained on page 13 of the Sunday Vanguard as well.
A lot of history, but let's move away from that and tell you a story just below it. It says, 1 year after Yelwata massacre, community demands justice for 271 victims. And details you find on page 7 of the Sunday Vanguard newspaper. And other stories making the rounds. It says here, 60 days on, families of abducted passengers in Borno cry for help. And details you find on page 6 of the Sunday Vanguard newspaper.
Well, still a whole lot happening around the insecurity issues and concerns being raised there, Mukhtar. But let's look at the right-hand corner there, where it says, Peter Obi, it doesn't matter if 36 governors are with Tinubu. I won 12 states in 2023 without governor. Story on page 5. So he's speaking based on he wants to build on what he has
in 2027
actually tried in the last election year.
Most definitely.
And of course, below that as well, it says 2027, when government fails, hope must not. SDP presidential candidate also speaking as well, and that story is on page 30 of the Sunday Vanguard.
Most definitely. And away from that story just below, still sticking to politics, it says Ekiti 2026 as the Kika Shatima APC governors orders to converge for Oyebanji's mega rally, and the details you find on page 7 of the Sunday Vanguard newspaper.
And of course, just below the lead story that started off the conversation today, or stories leading up for Sunday Vanguard, we have where it says June 12, MKO died of heart attack, not poison. Abdulsalami speaking there, and of course there's a writer that says a whole lot lead up to that as well. Says how efforts were made to secure his release, Obasanjo speaking. I also have Abdulsalami shut down pressure to extend transition, General Aliu also. And we also have I weep every time I remember what Abiola told me, Mike Igini speaking. All of that is contained on page 5 of the Sunday Vanguard.
And away from that story, just below, you see a story that says xenophobia in South Africa. Nigerians always first suspect, even when other Africans commit crime. And details of this story you find on page 12 of the Sunday Vanguard newspaper.
And also below that, we have where it's talking about worry. Have warring parties agree on power sharing after Tinubu's intervention. Story on page 7 as well.
And of course, I think that's about the much we can take from the Sunday Vanguard newspaper. It's time for us to move on to the next paper for review, which is the Sunday Tribune newspaper. And the Sunday Tribune newspaper is leading with politics ahead of 2027. And it says, the Sunday Tribune newspaper, that is, 2027 elections, why Atiku picked Amechi as running mate. That is for the Sunday Tribune newspaper. And it also has two riders here. The first rider on Sunday Tribune newspaper says, ex-VP toyed with Southwest option, and that is on the Sunday Tribune newspaper. And the second rider here says, former Rivers governor to be unveiled next week. And all of the stories, which is the lead story on this particular paper, you find on page 4. And above the nameplate, we go to security matters. And this story by the left-hand corner says, how I narrowly escaped being murdered. And that is the Ataoja of Oshogbo recounting his experience. And details of this story you find on page 5 of the Sunday Tribune newspaper.
And just beside that story on the right-hand corner, they're still sticking to the story of the retired general who died in the custody of terrorists, as General Rabi, who died in terrorist enclave buried in Castina. And we also have writers that talks about how he died. The adopters release his corpse for burial, but hold on to his wife.
This is a very sad story
on page 2.
It's a very sad story.
This is really sad. I can imagine one going through that. Your loved one dies in your presence, but you can't get to bury the remains and say your last goodbyes.
Honestly, what is even much sadder for me is the fact that these are veterans. This is someone who is a general who has paid his due, served this country diligently, and this is how he meets its end. And we just hope that incidents like this never occur in our history, because it's not a good one on our country, Nigeria.
Okay, so
and
let's
away from that story, let's go below the big story by the left-hand corner and tell you a story here that says 6 days to Ekiti poll. INEC identifies 469 polling units as potential flashpoints, and it has two riders. The first one says Shatima, APC Governor Storm Ekiti Tuesday for Oyebanji. The second rider says ADC, PDP, exude confidence short of victory. And all of these stories, you find details on page 5 of the Sunday Tribune newspaper.
Well, away from that, we also have on the right-hand corner as well. Let's take the middle and then we'll go to the very right corner. There it says, Adebayo, SDP presidential candidate, preaches hope, says Nigeria worth believing in. Story on page 7. And then just by the side it has the story says, Polity 2026 primaries signal of what may happen in 2027 elections. Retired Army General. Story on page 11. And that's talking about a whole lot to build up to the election as well. And below that,
of course, below that story, we see a story that says leaders must be willing to consult widely in trying movement, and that is Obasanjo speaking. A writer here says, as Tinubu, Jonathan, Gowon, Mbeki felicitate General Abubakar. All of the stories you find details on page 4 of the Sunday Tribune newspaper.
And then to the left-hand corner on the statement side, but a bit of a sad one there, where it says, Kola Oyewo dies at 80. Colleagues mourn recall how veteran actor impacted their lives. Story on page 15. And that's it on this particular paper, the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. That's the Sunday edition of it. Let's quickly tell you our next lineup of paper, which is the Sunday Independent newspaper, which is the next one, and it has its lead story that still looks at the democracy, how well and how far we've come as a nation. The Sunday Independent leads with this. It says Nigeria's democracy at 27, triumphs, trials, failures. We also have Rider that says Hashim condemns attack on protesters on Democracy Day. And we also have Let's Work Together for Democracy. Senator Ikpa urges Nigerians, and that story as well starts on the front page cover and as well continues on the other side.
Other stories making the round include this by the right-hand corner, which we've seen in many other papers. It says Major General Rabi Abubakar dies in bandits' captivity, with details on page 4. And away from that, we have another one that says Masop demands halt to oil activities in Ogoni land over unresolved issues. Details on page 2 of the Sunday Independent newspaper.
So we have another story there just below that. It says when government fails, hope must not. That's the Adebayo's, and it's also I watch all the papers where he's calling up for hope, and then we should know that there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Well,
in the long run,
we are hopeful as Nigerians, and we hope our hope translates into results.
Okay,
because we have got to work to have reality, of course.
So let's see just below that as well, a bit away from what we've heard about 2027 build up. It says rich country, poor people, experts, and worried by growth without so-called. And we have Rider that says wants FG to invest more in SMMEs, improve citizens' social welfare, then call for transparent social investments and empowerment program. All of that is on the lead paper as well. The front page cover as well continues on the page in the paper's page 2 as well.
Of course, above the story, which is the last story we'll take, above even the nameplate, it says Abdusalami was making efforts to free Abiola, and that is Obasanjo speaking. He has two riders. The first one says Tinubu locates land for proposed Abdusalami Center, and the second one says 1999 handover a moral obligation, and that is Abdusalami speaking. All of the stories you find on the front page of the Sunday Independent newspaper.
Well, that brings us to wrap on the Sunday Independent newspaper, and then we quickly turn our focus to the Weekend Trust newspaper. Like I always like to look at it, has a whole infographics, and it tells a lot. I think it's easier to see and tell and understand the mind or the writer that tells the story.
Of course.
And of course, let's start with the lead-up story. It says 2027 battle for running mates intensifies. Of course, there's a whole lot of ideas to issues that builds up to who you pick as your running mates. We see from the graphics there, it talks about ethnicity, it talks about region, it talks about religion, it talks about political clout, it talks about followers. All of that are ideas.
Those are things you have to consider as variables before you pick a candidate as your running mate ahead of 2027. But for me, one of them I've not seen there is patriotism, love for the country, compassion.
You know,
those are variables for me that are more important than this particular variables in the basket. But of course, we hope that whoever it is that emerges as running mate to all of the candidates would have empathy, would have selflessness for the people.
Yeah.
Those are variables that we should see in that basket, if you ask me.
Okay, well.
All of the stories you find details on page 5 of the Weekend Trust newspaper. And above that story, let's go by the left-hand corner. It says, our ordeal in South Africa, Nigerian returnees speaking. And you hear what they say on page 18 of the Weekend Trust newspaper.
And of course, beside that story there in the middle there, it says protest in Abuja, Lagos over insecurity. Story on page 28. A whole lot to talk about on that protest. We saw that play out on Democracy Day as well. And then just beside there on the right hand side, it says our plans for life after retirement, Nigerian workers, and that story is on page 24. I think it's very good. Start having good plans after retirement.
Someone even said first time you get into service, you should already start making plans for your retirement, because that's the only way you can get it right, in his opinion. Because you don't have to wait till you are
about to retire.
1 month, 2 months towards retirement.
And that's a hasty decision.
You tend to get it wrong. So as you're serving, remember there's going to be a retirement, and start planning ahead of that retirement.
Okay.
And away from that story, below the picture story, we'll do a bit of sport. It says the rise of wonder kid Zadok Johanna, and of course we know he has been signed to Brighton and Hove Albion in the EPL, and I hope he makes wave flying the Nigerian flag in the English Premier League. And away from that story, he says inside story of house helps from hell, and details you find on page 11 of the Weekend Trust newspaper.
Okay, well, when you're picking your house help, pay attention. It's not the one
You
from
don't
hell.
get the ones from hell. But we've seen so many bad and negative incidents, of course.
Okay, so that gives us a wrap on this particular paper. Let's turn our focus and see what the Sunday Punch newspaper has for us. Sunday Punch newspaper leads still on the side of politics and the build up to 2027. It says 2027 APC shuts door on primary results review, and we have riders list remains unchanged. Party insists power brokers preventing Tinubu from knowing the truth. Story on page 3 of the Sunday Punch newspaper.
And of course, above the nameplate, we go to the left-hand corner. It says insecurity. Fulani settlers abandon southern communities, cite ethnic profiling, with details on page 3 of the Sunday Punch newspaper.
Okay, so we have a whole lot talking about the Adichie's accuses Lagos Hospital of blocking probe into her son's death. Remember the
Chimamanda sad incident that led to the demise of her son.
Yes.
Well, if there's nothing to hide, why are you blocking the investigation process?
We hope that this gets through, so she has her peace of
mind. Closure is very important, because if people get to lose their loved ones, they want to know that the person did not die in a wrong manner, and we hope this is handled the right way, and our medical sector would be on the map again for the greater reasons and not for the bad reasons.
Of course. And then below that we have other stories making the rounds there. Just look at the story there that talks on real leadership learns under pressure, not in classrooms. Former NIMASA DG Peter Side speaking there. Story on page 22 and 23, of course.
And of course, away from that story, let's look at the right-hand corner below the nameplate. It says, how Germany turned my trip into nightmare. And that's a Punch editor speaking, with details on page 20. And away from that story, it says, from Bauchi to Brighton, the making of Nigeria's new wonder kid, Johanna. Of course, we saw that story with the previous newspaper that we reviewed, and of course, like we said, we hope he makes exploits and puts Nigeria on the map in the EPL. And of course, still talking about stories making the front page of the Punch newspaper, it says ex-generals blame government as former army spokesman dies in captivity. And details you find on page 4 of the Punch newspaper, the Sunday edition.
Okay, so let's go below the lead story there, and then where it says pregnant on the right hand side. It says pregnant women stranded as collapse bridge cuts off Gombe community from healthcare. Story on page 16 and 17. This is really
a very sad one, Anita.
The health system and the infrastructure, seeing how that can get across.
They are very interconnected, because if you don't have infrastructure, if you don't have good roads, how do you handle emergency situations? If you have insecurity, how do you go there safely? So those are all questions that are begging for answers, and we hope the authorities concerned will sweep in and do the necessary stuff. And away from that story, just by the middle, it says, police chased, stoned my brother to death in Delta River, and that's sibling of a victim speaking, and details you find on page 18 of the Sunday Punch newspaper.
And then just below that story there, we have on the bottom plate there, it says military brass ignored Abacha's burial plans, lobbied for succession. Abdulsalami speaking there as well. And of course, a whole lot of stories making the rounds across all papers, and that's practically the last paper for us to pay, and give you all the clues to what's happening around the dailies, where you need to pick a copy and read up details. It's democracy period. There's a whole lot of actions and inactions, questions around different sectors, what's happening, where you need to pick up and understand the dimension of these things.
Of course, it's very much impactful with stories, like you said, with stories across politics, insecurity, 2027, and a lot of decision-making process for Nigerians. So the only way for me to make informed decision is to be informed. So these are one of the ways, by picking up newspapers and getting details and keeping yourself abreast with the happenings in the country.
Well, there's a whole lot lined up, and I want to say thank you for staying with us on this. I hope that you pick up all the copies and get informed yourself, find out details. We've just given you the headlines of what it is.
It's not for you to find the
you
details
to pick
by
up
yourself.
those papers and also get abreast with them until you can stay informed and also know the dimension of conversations when you get into them. All right, a whole lot lined up on the program. Let's quickly take our next story. Lineup for the day, which is taste and texture. Let's get to breakfast and then we'll come back for our discussion segments. Please stay with us.
Hello everyone and welcome to Taste and Texture. Today we are going to be preparing boiled plantain and egg sauce. For the boiled plantain, we'll be needing the following: ripe fresh plantain, knife and clean pot, water. Here is the process of preparing boiled plantain. Wash and cut or dice your fresh ripe plantain into few pieces. In a clean pot, add your diced and washed ripe plantains. Add water, salt and cover to cook for a few minutes. Drop and drain the water, and then after a few minutes peel the boiled plantain and set aside. For the egg sauce, we will be needing a few fresh pieces of raw eggs. In a clean bowl, break your raw eggs and whisk. Get your clean frying pan and add oil to fry. Add your pepper, mix and stir for a few minutes. Then add Maggi and other seasoning of your choice. Then stir and add corned beef. Optional. Also stir your already whisked eggs and finally add parsley and stir it. Our boiled plantain and egg sauce is ready. That's it on this episode of the show. I hope you will try this recipe at home. Join me again on Taste and Texture next time. I am Sadia Yakubu. See you again.
Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
In an age of breaking news, you need a trusted source that prioritizes accurate, factual, and unbiased reporting. This is AM News, and I am Ubong Osoro.
On global television, our news is rooted in verified and authoritative storytelling that keeps you educated, informed, and enlightened on all the issues that matter to you. I am Sadia Yakubu. This is Midday News.
You can trust our multi-platform news broadcast real-time and fast-check stories for all the big local and foreign headlines round the clock. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. This is News Express.
Our array of anchors delivers the news to our teeming viewers, breaking it down with context and perspective. This is News Cycle on Global Television. I am Anieti Patrick.
And the flagship news is your hub for the day's most engaging stories. This is News Prime, and I am Jumai Manson.
Did you miss any of our news rounds? No worries. Catch up at 10 p.m. and midnight, 7 days of the week. I am Mukhtar Kasim.
Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. We're active across all social media platforms at Global TV NG.
Global TV News, accurate and unbiased. I'm Uyi Agmofwebe.
At Witchtech Cables, we don't just make cables, we deliver excellence. Our products are built with advanced technology, trusted for their unmatched quality and durability. With a wide range of cables, swift delivery, and continuous innovation, we stay ahead of the market demand. We are proudly Nigerian, fully indigenous, yet world-class. Backed by a professional team, strong technical support, and a deep commitment to customer satisfaction. Witchtech Cables is more than a brand, it's a promise. Witchtech Cables, quality cables better than the best.
At Erojim Shoe Factory, excellence starts from the ground up. Located at number 1 Pound Road behind Nigeria Correctional Service, Aba, Abia State. We produce 1,500 high-quality shoes every single day. Paramilitary shoes, safety boots, desert boots, ankle shoes, back-to-school footwear. All crafted with state-of-the-art equipment and built for strength, comfort, and durability. For reliable footwear that stands the test of time, choose Erojim Shoes for better product, strong steps, smart style. For inquiries, call 091-264-53399 or 070-3009-3944 or 080-6573-8374 or call 081-3167-3668. Email info@erojim.com. Website www.erojimdesign.com. Erojim. Walk with confidence. Walk with pride.
Hello and welcome to your weather forecast. Sunday morning is expected to start off on a relatively calm note as our weather indicators continue to show good atmospheric stability across much of the country. This should provide favorable conditions for outdoor activities in many areas. There is only a very slim chance of isolated morning showers in parts of the southeastern coast, areas around Imo, Abia, Ebonyi, and Cross River states. For most areas in the country, dry conditions is expected to prevail through the early hours of the day. As we head into the afternoon and evening, the atmosphere becomes more active, creating better prospects for rainfall development. Thunderstorms are expected across several cities within the country, stretching from the southeast through to the southwest and most cities within the central areas and northern regions. Some of these storms may be accompanied by strong gusty winds and temporary reductions in visibilities. Residents, especially those with outdoor plans, are advised to stay alert and monitor weather updates. That's your weather forecast. Thank you for watching.
Well, it's good to have you join us back, and of course you saw breakfast served by our beautiful chef there. Brought you that plantain, showing you the measures in which you need to take to have something to eat, and we hope that is something you want to try, and I'll keep you up to discuss with us as well, because we have a whole lot to talk about. It's a period where it's raining across the different regions here in Nigeria, and of course it talks about climate change and the build up and what we're expecting, what we should be looking forward to. But in line with that as well, I want to look at the issue around democracy. 27 years down the line in our democratic space, what is happening? Want to assess all of that concerns raised around the climate change, and of course that brings us to the discussion segments where we know that Nigeria's democratic journey has now spanned over that 27 years experience on an uninterrupted period where we've seen different dimensions when it comes to a whole lot to governance and all that. But throughout this period, we've seen successful governments. We've also seen introduced policies. We've also seen all of this aimed at healthcare services. We've seen that aimed at environmental sustainability. We've also seen that around sanitation and as well as disaster management, all encompassing on the quality of life people should be expecting, the world should be looking forward to. And then we know that if we don't have policies, we don't have a guide to all of that, it becomes a thing of concern and attention needs to be paid. But the critical question still remains that, have these policies put out truly translated into a healthier life or a safer environment for Nigerian people? That's one question we should ask. Successful governments, policies, all of that, has that really changed the kind of environment Nigerians or citizens are living in today? It's a big question to ask. Take a look at the drainage system, take a look at flooding year in, year out, in Nigeria, from the south, the east, the north, all of that, desertification, all of those policies put out by successive governments in the last 27 years. How has this improved the system of governments? Let's look at farming as well. Has that improved as our environment with the climate change we see on a daily? But let's also tell you that while democracy has also provided opportunities for policies, development and citizens' participation, of course, we've also seen Nigerians continue to grapple with reoccurring floods, like I've mentioned, pollution, waste, poor waste management, disease outbreak, environmental degradation, and the growing threats of climate change. And one will want to ask, when will this change? When will this narrative change? When will we put this across for a positive dimension for people to understand that we can live, because we're what we eat, we're also where we live, in my own opinion exactly, but we need to also have policies that can fold or put in the right direction for Nigerians to have a pleasant space. Today's discussion also coincides with the ongoing Africa Faith Actors Networks for Climate Justice for World Environment Day, which was some weeks ago, campaign 2026, and which runs has been running through from the month of the 5th of June till it's going to run all through till the 20th of June, and all of that, and all of this mindset put across is a call for a stronger climate action and environmental stewardship across Africa, because of course we start with Nigeria because this is where we are, but we're looking at this across Africa. What's the pace? What's the dimension? What picture are we painting? What healthy lifestyle are we looking out for? What well-being of millions of citizens are we looking forward to? Because if the environment is not stable enough, if it's not clean enough, of course we know there's an outbreak of disease and it becomes a thing of concern. So where do we go from here? That's the question we're asking, and we hope that answers will come in the course of the conversation. And of course, hopefully we get our guest to join us to speak to us, because he's a representative from the African Faith Actors Network and Climate Justice. Hopefully he gets to join us virtually and speaks to this issue. Let's understand the dimension, and with this campaign going for them, what is the next phase? Where would that turn the focus for Africa and also the people at large? But this conversation continues as we'll take this quick break, and we'll be right back after this time out.
Up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
Of course, we're back into the conversation, and of course, like I did the introductory part to that, where there's a whole lot, and that's a lot of concern that Nigerians want to pay attention with, or give attention to, rather, to talk to us where we can change this narrative and look at positive ways into solving the crisis around the climate action. Climate has become a problem to farming, to a whole lot of concern. That's one question that has begged for answers, and policymakers, experts who see how this has affected a whole lot have paid attention, have asked questions. What can we do differently? What can we do in terms of awareness creation so that we have a sustained environment where there's proper information, no health concerns raised, participatory involvement of citizens to know that it is you as an individual that needs to go to pay attention to all of that. Like I said, today's discussion coincides with the ongoing Africa Faith Actors Network for Climate Justice, World Environment Day Campaign 2026, which is one of the things, and also it's been running from the 5th of June and it's going to end on the 20th of June. And all of this is calling for the stronger climate action and environmental stewardship across Africa. And hopefully, like I said, our guests will join us virtually to give us a proper understanding to how to navigate through all of this. And let's look at democracy at 27 for Nigeria here, and we want to look at how this government policies has improved the public health. And of course, Mukhtar, who likes to talk about the issue around environment, let's get your view on this. We've had successful governments in the last 27 years, policies, a whole lot of discussions around that. Has this really improved the public health? Let's start with public conveniences. With that.
Well, your guess is as good as mine, Anita. I'm not to preempt anyone, but the fact and the reality is before our own very eyes.
Yeah.
The government have put policies, like you rightly said, they've been able to bring actionable plans. But how many of those plans have translated into public health, a betterment of our public health? If you talk about conveniences, how many of us, when we go to public places, can say we are able to use, there's a provided, free convenience for us to use without getting charged? Those things are not available. One of our biggest issues that we've complained about is open defecation.
Yes.
And we know the impact of open defecation on our society, on our health, on our environment. It is a negative one. And those are all consequences of the problems that we've been confronted with in terms of our environment. And we all always say that whatever it is you put into the environment is what it is that you get to see. And we have no doubt that even across the nation we have different challenges. If you go to the north, like we talked about last week, I remember in the conversation, we have things like deforestation, which have affected productivity of our farmlands, which also has affected our food security in Nigeria. And if you talk about the south, we also have issues around things like the pollution of our waterways in terms of oil spillage. We all have those issues confronting our nation. And all those things have got an adverse effect on our health sector, undoubtedly. And we've seen the government come out to say we are making plans to tackle all of these issues. But then for me, plans without credible and feasible results is just a waste of time. So beyond just rhetorics and beyond just statements that we've seen governments make, we need to see those things and those statements translate into real-time results that would help in turning the tide and changing the narrative of our health sector, because all of us are affected. If you don't have a healthy population, there's no how you'd have a nation that is productive. One of the most essential factors of every growing nation or nation that you see has developed is the fact that their nation is strong and healthy. And for Nigeria, we already have said we have plans to be among the biggest economies in 2030 and all of that rhetorics. That cannot be a reality, can never be achieved until we have taken care of our public health, until we take care of our environment and put all the right square pegs in the square holes. And until we do that, we can never have that reality achieved. To answer your question,
well, I'm looking at the issue that you raised, the open defecation, which is a serious concern, because you go to well-educated people's environments, but because there are no provisions, and then we tend to just make do what we have, which is also making us have an open space to the climate challenges that comes in. Because of course we could have flooding coming, defecation in the wrong place will be swept into the culverts, and the culverts gets into the house, and it gets into the water that goes around, and that becomes a thing of concern. And also, just like we saw there, also even the plants, where you see farmers have the climate issue concerned as well. All of that are things that needs to be looked into. I know there are policies that have been coming into place to look at all of those concerns, but the crisis in Nigerian climate justice and also the right for women as well plays a holistic role where proper attention needs to be looked at, where we see that in time past, we could sit back to ask, where are we getting
how
far so far? We've had 27 years of uninterrupted governance, democracy play out for us across the span. But when do we get this right? From every perspective we've seen, we've assessed the impact of government policies, the public health during this period, and we've seen that we've made meaningful progress, of course, no doubt about that. But concerns are, as many Nigerians knowledgeable of the improvements in this healthcare infrastructure and the disease control initiative that has been put out by the government, because we still have access remains difficult to healthcare. Just like we saw in the newspaper review, where we see the infrastructure for the bridge in Gombe there is collapsed.
And which means that's a crippling of the healthcare environment.
Yeah, so it shows back to the rural environment communities, accessibility to the basic infrastructure that can help people stand up, because public health is very important. We cannot roll that away.
It is paramount. And not only, for me, I look at it from two angles.
Okay.
There's the angle of the government, like we've said. They have got to do more in terms of not just policies, in terms of implementation of those policies. We know that every year we see budget, and the health sector is one of the sectors that has got a large chunk of the nation's budget behind security and all of that. But how accessible is the healthcare? When we go to public hospitals, which majority of us is what we are able to afford because of our financial situation, what are the services that we get there? What are the queues on the line? What is the possibility that you go to a government hospital and you get attended to in real time? How are we able to manage our emergency situations? Those are questions we ask. And then for environment, we also ask the people, how do we treat our environment? We can't wait for the government every time. We talked about flooding, and one of the causative factors of flooding that we've identified is the fact that we as people also dump waste in our waterways.
Yes.
Some of us build our houses around the water channels, which is not advisable. So even as much as we are dragging the government and trying to hold them accountable, we as people also ask ourselves, how have we been treating our environment? What are the actions that we have done that would bring succor to the environment? Because if we as people think that it's all for the government to handle, then that is something we are getting wrong, because we all are stakeholders in the greater picture of environmental justice and climate change. Because it affects all of us. Insecurity is something that also has been attributed to climate change. We've seen a lot of the headers move from where they are to other places, and that migration also has been a problem which has contributed to Nigeria's security woes. So these are questions that we have got to answer, and Nigerians, not just the government, have got to be part of that particular greater anxiety.
Of course, if we don't change the narrative of things, who will change it for us? That's the concern. So I think it's time for we to take the balls or take the mandates that is upon us on our hands and ensure that we get it right when it comes to the public health space. Yes, the government will do their own part, but as individuals, what other ways can you also stand up for yourself is what answers we should be looking at. Those are concerns which are being raised or talked about in most cases. So we've seen the fact that there's a disconnect between policy formation and implementation.
That has been our biggest issue in Nigeria.
So I'm looking forward to a time where we could probably have a town hall meeting.
Those meetings have been held. Trust me.
I'm saying probably the citizens themselves and sit with the government one-on-one, not just the stakeholders, not just the people who maybe down to the rural communities, just like when we have during campaigns, where we see those
door-to-door campaigns.
Door-to-door campaigns. Sit with them. understand the mindset, understand where the nitty-gritty of the right things that these rural communities need.
That's very correct, and I agree with you, because it is a multi-stakeholder approach, and the people and the government would have to work hand in hand. And the people also can do their own little, because I've seen community efforts where there are initiatives like the Waste to Wealth initiative, where we see people turn the waste, if you like, in the community, and they recycle those things to become wealth for themselves. And that is one action that even the United Nations has advocated as a game changer for our environment and the safety of our people. So, of course, I agree with you that we need to have a dialogue between the government and the people in ensuring that this tide is changed, and we have more consciousness has got to be achieved, more awareness has got to be raised. Those are things that should be brought to the front burner, not just what's it called now, meetings where we see people just go and drink tea and talk and pass. No, we need to change the narrative beyond that to real actions that will bring real change.
Okay, so we'll talk about all of this concern. One will ask, what are the major focus or directions we're looking at so that the environment is safe? We talked about the issue of the open defecation, infrastructure provision, public conveniences, waste management, all of that. So all this still boils around access to clean water, sanitation, a healthy environment, disease prevention, because if we have all of this put in place, it will effectively have, or the government also have an effective way of addressing issues. Because if you have the fact that the provision of that water is there, the provision of that waste management process, because I know in the FCT we used to have the Abuja Environmental Protection.
We still have them.
We still have that same. They are still in existence. I'm looking at
how effective have they been over time.
No, I'm not saying they don't do their job. I'm saying how well have people felt them across the satellite towns, across the area council, all of that, starting from the FCT here.
Of course.
Then let's look at the states. We still have the Environmental Sanitation Day, which also helps look at waste management, all of those things, attention paid to. But all of that is what we're looking at to see how we can manage it, because we're in the season where it's the raining season, and we need to probably pay attention to waste management to avoid all of those concerns.
And of course, another aspect again is the area of diseases. We've seen a lot of Ebola is on the rise. We've seen the hantavirus and all of those things. And one of the safest way, as per what experts have told us, is the fact that we need to be preemptive, which means we have got to even make sure that disease doesn't have the environment to thrive, rather than reactive when it has happened and then we are looking for a way to save face. But have we been able to take care of the environment to the point that these diseases do not have the room to thrive? And that question for me is a big no, because if we are able to do that, we'll see that before we even get to saying, okay, government is bringing so much money to manage Ebola crisis, so much money to take care of the COVID and all of those things, have we put infrastructure in place to make sure that this doesn't even get to that point? Those are things that we need to do as people, as government. Reactive, I don't like the fact that we are always reacting to when it has happened. Fire brigade approach, let's find a way, let's budget this money. No, the basics is the fact that you should, even from the beginning, know that, okay, if I put this in check, if we have sanitation in check every month, every week, as much as we can, is this not going to help us take care of this crisis of Ebola and all of those things? It certainly will, but we've not done that, and until we do that, we'll keep on running round cycles and eating.
Okay, so let's look at, there are a lot of public health initiatives put out to ensure that ideas around proper environment is put out. But we've seen that environmental protection remains a critical component of the public health as well, if it can got. But over the years, various administrations have introduced environmental policies and regulations. But the question, just like we say, how successful have these interventions been in protecting the communities from the environmental hazards? Just like you mentioned, in the southeast, we have the issue of erosion, which we've seen as a major challenge.
It's a perennial challenge.
Yes.
It's been for so long.
So at what point would that change? Because if we continue to witness widespread pollution across several parts of the country, in some regions, the industrial pollution, just like you mentioned, in the south, affects water sources, while in some urban areas, the poor water waste disposal remains a major challenge. So would you say the environmental governance or has received the attention? Because from all what we've seen, we're still struggling, And we want to know at what point we have consequences when environmental policies exist on paper but fail to be a practical implementation. So we have headways where people in these different regions were able to say, okay, it's a solidarity kind of thing, and the narrative is beginning to change from what we see over time.
I think we're already living in the consequences, if you ask me, because what are the incidences of flooding? I think this year we were just getting into the rainy season. We don't know if it's going to flood. Last year it did. The year before that it did. Even in urban areas, even in this particular city, Abuja, I've seen estates that are residential estates that have the incidences of flooding. And another issue, you talked about government. Another issue I have is the fact that continuity is a very big problem. If you look at the sanitation, when we were growing up, like you said, we used to have weekly sanitations where all of the neighborhood will come out to clean the environment, and it was a mandate. It even had no movement for some hours.
Some states still have that.
Exactly. But how many of those things have, in Abuja here, I don't see that happening as much as it used to. So how many of those things have continued over time? And except we have consistency, we cannot have progress. You cannot just bring a policy and then haphazardly implement that policy and you think you have a result. It doesn't happen that way. It takes conscious effort. It takes time. It takes a lot of consistency to have results. And government policy without consistency, without continuity, is something that, because one of the issues, of course, that we've raised as Nigeria, beyond even environment, is the issue of consistency. We see a government comes up with a policy and it starts to implement that particular policy. But if it doesn't stay for 8 years, maybe after the first 10 or another government comes to power, what do? They tend to abandon the previous administration's policy and then embark on other policies, which also they might not conclude. So I think it should be something, even as legislations, you cover the National Assembly, of course you guys deal with legislation. One of the things I think should be a mandate is that projects and policies of government should be seen to a letter. We should not have a place of abandoned projects like we have. And that's one issue that has for so long bedeviled this nation, where we are a nation where policies are not implemented to the letter. And if we continue to do that, we would roll round circles and continue to chase perfection, which we would never attain, because perfection and results have particular policy formulas that you have to apply. If you apply the formula correctly, then you get the right results. And if you don't do that, you tend to continue chasing shadows.
At what point are we going to look at the idea of perfection? Do we see ourselves getting enough perfection? Because there's a whole lot of concerns around statistics, because we're looking at this in time immemorial. We're looking at 27 years. Policies have been put out, logical sense to see how to deal with the climate actions or the crisis rocking Nigeria across the different sectors. For instance, it's the raining season, like we mentioned, and a lot of homes and people will be displaced. That's a major concern. Every year we have this. Yes, we see awareness to tell you, move. There's this one. No,
but that's not the solution.
It's not the solution. That's what gets to a lot of people. And you're asking yourself, is it about moving or is it about providing the needed answers or the right things that should play out and give us the right ideas or the right governance provision, if that's the right.
I'll give you an example. There's a community in my state, Niger State. It's a fishing community, and every year they're bedeviled by flooding. And every year they get advisories to move. But the question is, this is a riverine community, which means their major source of earning is from that river. They fish, they sell all those fishes for money to be able to have food to eat and a roof over their head. And you tell them to evacuate from that community, and you don't give them a lasting solution. You might give them makeshift apartments to go. But the question is, that makeshift apartment, is it one that allows them to continue their livelihood? You just tell them to move and you don't give them a business.
So
they don't move. And
how would they move when they're not sure of their next meal?
They're not sure of their next meal.
They're not sure of if we get here, we're able to fend for our children. Because I know what it feels like for parents to watch their children suffer daily bread.
Yes.
It becomes a thing of concern, and they can't withstand that. So they will weigh a lot of options.
The only thing they do, based on what I've heard and I've seen, is that they move temporarily when the rain comes. They leave the houses, and then when it goes, they still go back to that same house, try to clean up and start the life all over again. So that's what they do year in, year out. Is that how we're going to continue? Is that how? Because if you're making progress and you're being brought. It's like you're taking one step forward and
one
two step back. Actually,
okay, so I'm actually saying one step.
It's 2 steps back, which means you're making no progress. And that's one issue that we are confronted, not just in the riverine communities. If you go to the communities where they are affected by climate change in the north, desertification comes in and encroaches their land. You tell them to move. And they move, some of the people in the north, they move to greener pastures where they can take care of their cattle and all of that.
And also have farmlands.
But the issue is now, most of those times, they go to other people's farmlands. They don't have, even though, of course, the government has talked about ranches and giving them, those people ranches to put in their cattle and all of that. But most of those things have not been realistic. The people there have not been willing to give their lands. So those are things that now bring to other issues, farmer-header clashes and all of those things. So if the environment is taken care of and everyone has got their own place sorted out, you see that these incidences are cut to the barest minimum. I know it's not something that is completely eradicatable, but then you can bring it down to the barest minimum.
Well, let's look about the south. South. There we'll have the issue around
the
Niger Delta region. There's a whole lot of concern where you see mothers struggling to get clean water because of the oil spill and all of that concern that comes in. You go to the riverside where you're supposed to get your fish, get your whatever to come into play, and then you see the oil spill on it. You see how that plays out. So you're asking yourself, how do I get this out for my loved ones?
Well, you've seen how it panned out. We are obviously reviewing democracy 25 years, and one of the things in our history, if you're looking at it, is the amnesty and the Niger Delta militancy, and that was due to environmental injustice, if you like, since we're talking about environmental justice, because they felt that the government, which was supposed to give them the resources, Nigeria as a nation has got a vast majority of our earnings coming from oil, and then these people who produce the oil did not have a stake in it. They didn't have infrastructure provided for them. They had what? They had oil spillages. They had their livelihoods taken. They couldn't go to the fish because the farmlands and the rivers were polluted, and that's what led to that insurgency and militancy. But of course, we've seen that the government has stepped in, provided the Niger Delta Development Commission, which has been trying to turn the tide, and it's been doing a good job. So that's something that we need to see replicated across, even though we have other commissions. But how far have they been able to address the challenges that they were created for? We have the Southeast Development Commission, we have the Northeast, and all of those things.
Which is a good one.
But
applause and attention
to the government.
Yeah.
But how have they been able to use that platform to better the life of an average Southeasterner or an average Northeasterner or an average Nigerian, basically? What are the variables that they have invested in that particular commission to make the life of the people better? Those are questions that have been begging for answers, and we hope to see those answers as soon as possible.
If you look at the concern around the extraction concern for those in the south, that's the Niger Delta region, it's a heartbreaking moment where you feel the pain, you feel the concerns, you're worried about the public health. Because if all of this is playing out, how would they survive?
You can clearly see from the picture on the screen. This is supposed to be a riverine community where they get fishes. But with this pollution, where would the fishes be? They all die off.
And then so if someone's livelihood has to stick to fishing, so you look at those concerns, because let's go beyond all of this destruction, the physical destruction, the floods. They often lead to outbreaks of the waterborne diseases such as cholera, typhoid.
Yes.
So we should look at government agencies, what they can do different to reduce all of this recurring impacts that comes in daily. Yes, you mentioned the introduction of the different commissions, development commissions. Which is also paying attention to all of this, because it's the best way to have a management of all of this, because who would people cry to? The government is far off, but the commission is closer, because if you bring your cases to the commission,
they're supposed to handle
them to also pass it on to those in charge. But like we said, over the years, we've seen policies come out, and research on the climate initiative in Nigeria has also shown a lot of things, identifying trends, themes, future direction, and what that can be. If you look at across from 2017, all of that down the line, like we say, successful governments and all that, it has shown a whole lot of need to attention to be paid to all of this. And so there's a graphical demonstration there that talks about no document on paper, basically. It talks about the consigns from 2007 down to 2024, all of how that plays out for a whole lot of issues around the climate crisis. So we want 27 years down the line, we're looking at to see, hopefully, that the narrative will change from the climate mitigation and adaptation in Nigeria and give the people the needed attention, starting with the rural community. That's where I have a concern, because if that does not change, public health becomes a concern. Pollution is another growing concern, because people will be exposed to air pollution, the plastic waste issue, contaminated water bodies, and also poor sanitation continues to threaten these communities over time. So long-term health implications are one thing we should look at, because we look at, should Nigerians be concerned about that? Of course we should be concerned about it.
Of course we should.
Because if you don't fix where it's broken, it will stay there until where it's broken is fixed, before we have plans for futuristic agenda.
The question now is there even really a future? Because the teeming youth of Nigeria, let's relate this to young people. They are the people who carry the hopes of our nation going into the future, and they don't have a livelihood. They don't have a legit source of earning. What do they turn to? And we've seen the answer. In the Niger Delta region, like we said earlier, some of them did turn to militancy, but that has been solved. In the northern region, we've seen a lot of people who are supposed to be in the farmlands, but because of pollution and other variables that has chased them away, they find an alternative in criminality, which is something that we don't want to see as a nation. Because if people were to have the right infrastructure, you see that the level of criminality in the country would reduce. You don't see people picking up arms, becoming bandits, because some of these bandits, the stories they tell us, even though I don't sympathize with them by any means, they say my livelihood was taken, I had this and that, I had cattle, and all of those things were taken away because of climate insecurity and all of that. Then they turn to criminality. So if we don't address this, we are already sitting on a time bomb that is exploding, and until we are able to address it, we would see that Nigeria, the nation we're trying to build, would be more of a mirage than a reality.
Okay, well, let's hope that does not become a mirage, it becomes a reality of better environment. Well, climate change is often discussed as an environmental issue, but the truth is, global experts increasingly described as a public health emergency, which is one of the reasons why we thought it was good to sit and talk about it, because it's not just about how we see it, but it is a concern and a public health emergency that needs to be paid attention to. Because we're asking the question, why is climate change now being viewed through a health lens? Of course it has to be viewed through a health lens, because there are concerns, there are health challenges that comes with it, from heat stress to flood insecurity, to food insecurity, disease outbreaks, and displacements. Climate impacts are becoming more visible. How vulnerable is Nigeria to this emerging threat? You look at it from our farmlands, where we're supposed to have food sufficiency, but we cannot have it because of climate concerns.
Of course.
Because of all the challenges that comes with the injustice played out to the climate and how that builds around everything. So look at our current government policies sufficient to build that climate resilience among vulnerable populations. Of course, it's a work in progress. 27 years, we're not done badly, but it can be better.
We can do so much better.
We can do so much better. And then, of course, we look at adaptation. How can the climate adaptation strategies strengthen the public health systems across Nigeria? We've looked at solutions, we've looked at proposed mindset to see how that can play out. And we hope that going forward, this can actually speak better for Nigeria and, of course, Africa, because the mindset is, let's get it right at the grassroots. Let's get grassroots networks that understand these policies, that understand this advocacy we're speaking about, because our health is our wealth. Because if you're healthy, you're wealthy. And it goes across all region, religion, tribe, ethnicity, whatever. It's a collective responsibility where people need to think alike. People need to view climate action solely, not solely as a government responsibility, but as a collective responsibility from every dimension, or every ethnicity you represent, every faith you represent, if you want to get that out of the way. Because of course, the place of accountability cannot be overemphasized. We need to hold this government accountable, because if in 27 years down, we're not done badly, we can do more, and accountability and checks and balances is what gives us the best bet out of it.
Of course, accountability is very important, because it's not about saying you want to do this, but how far have you done it?
Yeah.
Anybody can say they want to do everyone has a good intention most times, but how far are our intentions translating into real-time action? And someone said efforts to him doesn't really matter. What matters to him is the result. So accountability, governments coming to say this is, and transparency also is important, because some of the policies the government doesn't even explain it to the people. They don't understand, because there's no how you intend the people to queue into these policies without having a grasp of the essence of that policy. So that's one aspect again. And accountability is not only for government. Even we as the people, we are accountable to the will of the nation, because this is Nigeria, our nation, and it's the only nation we have. Have we asked ourselves, how do we treat our environment as a person? I wake up today and tell myself, okay, I intend to, we see a lot of people littering the streets. If you are accountable to yourself and your nation, you will not do that, because you know this bounces back to you. This thing you're throwing in the dust on the waterways, you know that over time it will go and come back to you as flooding, because it will block the waterways. So if you are accountable and you know that this is something that is not good, then you would know that you would not even do it in the first place. So accountability is super important when we talk about climate justice for Nigeria and even beyond.
Well, when we look at that and see that that's the best way, just like Motoya has said it, accountability is very important.
It's key.
Check yourself. Remove the log of hair from your eyes.
Rather than looking at the one on your neighbor's eyes. Exactly.
We want to get this out in the right direction. Well, as we mark the 27 years of democratic governance, today's conversation reminds us that public health and environmental sustainability are inseparable. The quality of our air, water, sanitation systems, and climate resilience ultimately determines the quality of life enjoyed by citizens themselves.
Of course, climate justice is not only about protecting the environment, it is about safeguarding lives, livelihoods, health, and the future of our generation yet unborn.
Well, amazing conversation we've had here, and we hope that going forward, that every Nigerian will understand the significance of a good environment, so that you stay healthy and live healthy and live long to fulfill your days. Well, that's the much we can take on this discussion about democracy and public health, and how far we've looked at our journey so far in the last 27 years. Global Morning still continues, because up next is our conversation around the men's mental state. Stay with us.
Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
In an age of breaking news, you need a trusted source that prioritizes accurate, factual, and unbiased reporting. This is AM News, and I am Ubong Osoro.
On Global Television, our news is rooted in verified and authoritative storytelling that keeps you educated, informed, and enlightened on all the issues that matter to you. I am Sadia Yakubu. This is Midday News.
You can trust our multi-platform news broadcast real-time and fast-check stories for all the big local and foreign headlines round the clock. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. This is News Express.
Our array of anchors delivers the news to our teeming viewers, breaking it down with context and perspective. This is News Cycle on Global Television. I am Anieti Patrick.
And the flagship news is your hub for the day's most engaging stories. This is News Prime, and I am Jumai Manson.
Did you miss any of our news rounds? No worries. Catch up at 10 p.m. and midnight, 7 days of the week. I am Mukhtar Kasim.
Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. We're active across all social media platforms at Global TV NG.
Global TV News, accurate and unbiased. I'm Uyi Agmofwebe.
At Witchtech Cables, we don't just make cables, we deliver excellence. Our products are built with advanced technology, trusted for their unmatched quality and durability. With a wide range of cables, swift delivery, and continuous innovation, we stay ahead of the market demand. We are proudly Nigerian, fully indigenous, yet world-class. Backed by a professional team, strong technical support, and a deep commitment to customer satisfaction. Witchtech Cables is more than a brand, it's a promise. Witchtech Cables, quality cables, better than the best.
At Aerogym Shoe Factory, excellence starts from the ground up. Located at number 1 Pound Road behind Nigeria Correctional Service, Aba, Abia State. We produce 1,500 high-quality shoes every single day. Paramilitary shoes, safety boots, desert boots, ankle shoes, back-to-school footwear. All crafted with state-of-the-art equipment and built for strength, comfort, and durability. For reliable footwear that stands the test of time, choose Aerogym Shoes for better product, strong steps, smart style. For inquiries, call 091-264-53399 or 070-3009-3944 or 080-6573-8374 or call 081-3167-3668. Email info@aerogym.com. Website www.aerogymdesign.com. Aerogym. Walk with confidence. Walk with pride.
privileged were dressed in white, and of course, Mukhtar is just lucky to have a touch of this color on my beat. And we want to welcome. Welcome, it's good to have you join us, where we'll be discussing the issue around men's mental states, Mukhtar.
Of course, that's a very timely discussion. A lot of men struggle with that, but today we'll be busting the meat and bringing to you insights as a man and even as a woman. You could join in on the conversation.
Well, let's say June is recognized around the world as Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, a time dedicated to raising awareness about the mental and emotional well-being of men and boys. For generations, many men have grown up hearing phrases such as "man up," "be strong," and "real men don't cry." That's why I have a problem. While resilience is important, these expectations have also made it difficult for many men to speak openly about stress, anxiety, depression, trauma, and emotional struggle. Today, we examine why conversations around men's mental health matter, the challenges men face in seeking support, and what families, communities, and institutions can do to create healthier environments for men to thrive. And of course, Mukhtar.
Joining us for this conversation is Jumoke Esther Olotu, a licensed clinical psychologist, and she delivers evidence-based psychological assessment and therapeutic interventions across anxiety, depression, substance use, and stress-related conditions among children, adolescents, and even adults. She's also involved actively in workplace mental health promotion and psychoeducation. Jumoke, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure.
When they say black is beauty, this is it though.
Oh,
no coloration.
Thank you.
I just wanted to get you that, but you're really beautiful. It's good to have you. And what the way that you talk about the man and the mental state, and you're an expert, a clinical expert on that. But let's begin from basics. Let's talk about the mental health. Many people immediately think about mental illness, but that's not the focus right now. That's not what we're looking at. As a psychologist, what exactly is mental health, and why should it matter to everyone, especially men? Because we heard from our introductory version where they talked about man up, stand up, don't cry. African culture, I have a problem with that. It's good you're here, so speak to me. I speak to Nigerians and across the world why we should pay attention to that.
Thank you. I think for mental health, the first thing that we have to even look into is why do our minds just jump up when we hear the word mental health? It's the same things. But there's something about it it's a collaboration of emotional, psychological, our physical, even our social well-being. So mental health is not like, mental as it is in the street. And for men, which is our focus for today, men have grown up and grown to see that, men don't cry. But I like to say that we were first human before our gender was determined. When a woman takes in, the first thing we say, congratulations, we're expecting a baby.
No gender assigned.
Nobody says, you're expecting a boy. I can see it's a girl. It's a child first, a being. So for that, we have to pay attention into everything that has to do with our physical health, our social health, our psychological health. That is what encompasses it. It's not mental like, something is wrong with my head or something. So I think if we're able to understand that first, it makes life easier for us to actually dwell in and pay attention to the things that matter to us as humans.
Okay. That's very important. Now, mental health conversations have become more common in recent years, yet so many men still feel reluctant to discuss their emotional well-being. Why do you think that men fail to open up about the things that they're going through? Why do we have men not talking about these challenges?
Okay, so I would like to say, before we became men, we were first boys.
Okay.
And growing up, there is this thing amongst children that you get to see, you are a boy, stand up. You are a man, get up. Stop behaving like a woman. Look at me, I'm your daddy. We see that a lot in our society today. And by the time these boys now grow into men, beginning to face real life challenges, pressure here and there, how do we expect the boys that became men to actually express their emotions if they didn't grow up with the understanding of how this is how you are supposed to express these emotions? If you see two children playing, a boy is crying, a girl is crying, I don't know how subconsciously people do that. They carry the girl to say sorry, and like, you are a boy now.
Stop crying.
Stop crying. So the thing is, everybody has the right to process and express their emotions freely. Because if you are able to understand that crying is normal, feeling down is normal, speaking about it is not a sign of weakness. Talking and realizing that you actually need help or to be able to talk about something is actually a sign of strength. Because it takes a lot of courage to come in and say, oh, hi, good morning. I feel down. I feel weak. I feel a little headache. Not bottling it in. I think from that, realizing that there is strength in speaking to somebody and seeking help, I think we should be able to start from there. So it starts from boys before men. Thank you.
So I like the fact that you said that we should learn to give room for expression. Because the truth is, where we have a mental picture where society expects a whole lot from the men. And then they're saying the man don't cry. A man doesn't show softness.
It's weakness. It should have soft part of you.
You know, so I'm worried about how do these expectations affect the man or the boy's mental state. Because when children from the age of 2 to 8, if I'm not mistaken, have they hold on to that childhood experience and they form the part of the child's life. So for the boy who's been told, my friend, sit up, you don't act like a woman, there's always the scolding. You know, all of those manly expectations. How does this affect him as a boy and then build him up, and where he's going to also be a father someday? And because that's the foundation he's been, it's the kind of bed he's been asked to lie on.
So there is this word I like to use, that the childhood trauma, if not well handled, grows to be the adults you get to see eventually. So if we are able to make boys realize, and this our generation, yes, most of the adult men we have these days grew up with that. So if we are able to break that at this point so that we don't transfer it to the next, then it's easy for boys to see that speaking up, it doesn't mean you are less of a man. Okay. So that's it for me.
Now another thing is society, for me, they tend to mistake emotional suppression for strength. What does healthy masculinity look like? How can you be a man and dominate your territory, if you like, and still do that in a healthy way that it doesn't affect your mental health?
Okay, let me begin by saying, how do you live as a being? I would always use, how do you live as a man? Because if all of these things are bottled in, eventually it affects our physical health. Because we like to look at the place of mental health. We forget that what the mind, or how the mind feels, affects the body, and how the body also is affects the mind. It's together. So if as a man, the society have tried to make us understand that, oh, you're not supposed to talk, you're not supposed to bottle it, you're supposed to bottle this, you're not supposed to express. In turn, you begin to see angry men, irritable men, because that is the way they can express the pressure, because they are not able to calm down, feel like a being, be free, be relaxed. So they are angry, they're pressured, then sometimes they are withdrawn. Begin to ask, what is it? Nothing. Nothing becomes the regular response we get from men. And that's why it's also very difficult these days. If you check the statistics, you see more women in therapy than men. Some would come and they will even be like, oh, are we not just talking? It's not even as if you are opening my head to put something to make this. So understanding that the physical state also affects the mental state, and the mental state affects our physical health generally. Take, for example, the place of stress. You are not able to wind down, this running on and think that, oh, I'm a man, I must do this, the pressure, meet up the responsibilities, thank you. And in all of that, there is no place to unwind. There is no place to come back and say, oh, this is home. We've tamed this thing that, oh, the women are the only people. What happens to the man saying, I'm going home? And comes and say, my wife, my dear, babe, anything you feel to call her, I'm tired. Today was a very long day. I'm exhausted. Can I just take a shower and sleep? Not that, oh, I have this, oh, get out from my, can you just take your children? They're angry. They're irritable. And sometimes we join. Then the next thing is coping in ways that are not healthy. Taking substance to say, oh, let me just drink this thing to calm my head. But the thing is, that calming of head is just, it's not even dealing with the issue. It's just like keeping it somewhere. By the time you are done with the substance and its ways of, the problem has not changed. And what are we even doing again? We are now adding more problems to the existing, because substance use, of course, is going to be affecting the neurochemical pathways of the brain, and in turn we have additional problems to the existing ones. So maybe we're able to seek help and say, I don't understand this thing. Oh, I can't meet up with this pressure. It also makes you feel hurt, because if the society, like you asked, can make men understand that speaking and having the sense of listening and being heard by others, it also helps to relieve the pressure. I think from there we can have
we need to start preaching the fact that talking and speaking up is therapeutic.
Yes, it is.
And it's safe to speak. Don't just always bottle things up because you feel you're a man.
And some of the men, they'll tell you, like from the aspect of the family, they feel if I talk, she might perceive me as a weaker person, and I'm not able to give her that protection she wants. Don't you think that's the reason why this man don't speak up? That's one. And then sometimes they say what you speak might be used to manipulate you. And the woman, they might tell you, in the course of an argument, she would recourse back to your vulnerable period where you opened up to her. Don't you think those are the concerns that men face that make them to bottle up these problems?
Let me take it from the first question. She's going to use it against you. The question is, who did you marry?
Exactly.
One. Then let's say there are some challenges at some point. The understanding of if I speak, it will be used against me are things that we have to grow out from. So if we need to seek therapy to be able to onboard those things and understand that if I speak, it cannot be used against me. Rather, it's me seeking solution to an existing problem. But having the understanding of, for every time I speak, it is going to be used against me. That's the place of the boys into men. That means the boy has grown to become a man that is always being queried and questioned for seeking solutions to problems.
Okay, so I like the fact that he raised that, because I think that's one concern most men tend to bottle up. Because the truth is, when you meet someone, let's look at the space of marriage, just like he mentioned. When you meet somebody, you love the person, you communicate to the person, you build a bond, you build trust, you build a safety net. That's why you can entrust your life and live with that person, emotions, and live with that person. So when you have all of that put in place, why think the negative? That the person could use things against you. Because the minute you start thinking the negative, and that's me speaking from a perspective of humanity for us. Because like I always tell people, be a human first. Have humanity speaking all over you and trust the process of what you stepped into. Because if you're not blind enough, or you're too blind not to see your spouse's weakness to want to build, because you love that person and you want to build that person. So this becomes a concern where I want to ask basically, what warning signs should men look out for from their loved ones? Or should they pay attention to? That will also help build their self-esteem and also keep their ego intact and see that they are still safe even when they speak up, because like I started from the foundation of it first. That's what they should pay attention to. That's what I want to speak from a psychological point of view.
I would want to say communication from the very beginning. Because if you have somebody you can actually communicate with freely, it makes the journey easier. I'm not saying there are no ups and downs sometimes, but if communication has not really been a thing or a challenge, of course there was something that led to the butterflies tingling, and we now say, oh, this is the person I want to marry, amongst all the fishes in the ocean that you were swimming as a man.
Because they had a lot of fishes.
Yes, the shark is there, the tilapia is there, and you say, oh,
this is the one I want.
Fish that I want.
That's very attractive.
And I want this fish swimming in my water for the rest of my life. So communication first. If you're able to communicate and be free, that is one. Then two, the signs that I think even we, like the other gender now, should actually look out for: the place of stress, anxiety. You see your man not being able to sleep, worrying too much, always tired, headaches here and there, he sits and is lost in thoughts. That is not the time to come and say, school fees, so school has called. So this, like, let's be patient. like I mentioned, we're first human first. They have emotions too. They have blood and water, like we say,
of course
running through their own blood system. So it's important that we listen. Listening ears. We should not see it like, oh, I'm the woman, listen to me.
No, it has to be both ways.
It has to be both ways. The same way you want him to settle all of the bills, is the same way you should be able to at least start from the emotional bills.
Settling his own
settling his own emotional bills and listening, because for stress and also anxiety, we can say that the worrying is becoming so persistent. He's always, and sometimes, tired, he's sitting on the chair, he's just there. Okay. Then you see that some things they used to have interest in when you were dating or courting, he no longer have interest in them. He's just too busy to even have fun within the house, not even going outside now. So these are some of the things that we should pay attention to help our men.
So now we've seen some men, they don't really become sad. They turn to anger, withdrawal, irritable behavior, and emotional behavior. Can emotional stress show up in different ways for men, and how can they be able to manage that emotional stress when it comes up?
When you say emotional stress, I would like to start from the word stress itself before we bring the emotional.
Okay.
Sometimes stress is not always bad. With the place of me going to school, I want to study, I want to pass the exam, it was stressful, but it's a good kind of stress. The place of you want to provide for the family, you're working to make, it's a good kind of stress so that we don't live on the streets and we are not sleeping with empty stomach. But now the place where we can now bring in the emotional stress is when some of these things are not even appreciated well enough. You're trying your best, you're working 2-3 jobs, even if it's one, you're working morning, afternoon, and night, trying to meet ends meet up, and it's looking like your efforts are not appreciated. So that's why I would like to break it down, not use that word.
Well,
yes.
I'd like for us to also beam more light on this. So you've talked about how stress could serve as a motivation, if you like, to succeed. But then where do you draw the line? Because most times there's often a thin line that we tend to intercross. So where do you draw the line between trying to provide and using that stress as a motivation, and it not becoming a negative trait that throws you into depression and other states that are not good?
Okay, we draw the line where you're not able to rest, you find it difficult to rest. We draw the line where you begin to have loss of appetite or increased appetite. You begin to eat anything, you begin to eat too much. We draw the line where you are not able to sit still. Okay. And even sleep with your 2 eyes closed. You're getting barely 2-3 hours of sleep at night because you're so worried. And at least we should be getting, irrespective of how 3-4 jobs you're doing, you're getting at least sleep for 6-7 hours. 8 is great. 9, of course, amazing, but not 2-3 hours. And be realistic as we are right now with the current global economy where people are trying to do so many things, but at least get 6 to 7 hours of restful sleep.
Okay, I like the fact that you mentioned the fact where women need to rest and sleep for 6 hours.
I hope that is a reality.
Well, let's look at the economic hardship. It remains a major point of call where, or reality where men want to pay bills, want to provide, want to ensure that my reality is success, not failure. Where I have a woman, I can show the ego that I'm your man, I'm your provider, I'm your...
Of course, I'm taking care of your bills, so you have to do
and all of that. So how much impact can this financial stress have on the mental state of the men? Because let's come to Africa. The men are seen to provide everything. Good enough, we're moving to an era where there's a balance kind of compared to what we have in the Western world, where women don't sit anymore like we used to have back in the days. Women are also seeing how to come in to be that helpmate for the man and find the balance around what men still carry that responsibility more. As a father, you need to provide school fees, you need to do this, you need to man up. So at what point can men work around that? How can that financial emotional stress be a problem for the men themselves, or how they deal with it?
Okay, for me, I would want to come from the point of living within your means.
Okay.
Because you definitely have to pay bills, pay rent if you're not living in your own house, eat, because we can't grow everything we eat in our garden. transportation. Even if you have your ride, you have to fuel. And the cost of fuel
is electricity. You need to charge it.
You need to recharge.
Whatever it is you're getting, you have to pay bills.
The first thing is live within your means. Okay. If you know your income and you're living within, we know that sometimes the income is not enough to meet the bills. Let's be practical here.
It doesn't match it.
But you're not, you cannot be earning 200k in a month and you are sending your child to a school of 5 million euro per term.
That means you want to steal.
That means you want to steal, and you are already even giving yourself sleepless nights before it gets to bedtime.
True.
So living within your means first as a man. Then 2, when you begin to see that your income is no longer meeting up these bills and it's becoming so overwhelming, I think it's best that you seek help in the right places. Because I've seen men saying, "Oh, Friday I can't wait to hang out with the boys." Okay. And in hanging out, we tend to take substances. And substances also alter the normal functioning of our brain, because if this, I won't be still, of course, speaking too many jargons here, but if this neurochemical is to produce at 10%, for example, and this substance is now reducing the level at which it's to produce, it's definitely going to even affect sleep, if that's it. That's for one. Then 2, if it's to produce 10, and the substance, when I say substance, psychoactive substances, alcohol, weed, and other things. Now, if you're to produce 10 and it's giving you 15, 20, you are over producing. So, healthy coping strategies like exercise, speaking out first, communication. Then we can have exercise, we can have a daily routine, because sometimes the hustle in the street world that we are doing, how are we even doing it? Okay, is it that we are doing all the right things at the wrong time? Do we have our day really structured and scheduled appropriately? Okay, take for example, as an individual, you should know when your strength can carry every task. Even at your job, you know there are some tasks that you have to do in the morning, the shows and everything, but there are some personal things still waiting on your desk that, you know, I am more productive at this in the morning. I am more productive at this in the afternoon. So instead of doing those right things in the morning, we are not doing other things. That also helps to manage stress. Because we cannot say, oh, we don't want you to be stressed now, don't work. We don't want you to be stressed now, then you cannot go hungry. At least food first. In all of the others, food first.
And the hungry man
is an angry man.
So that becomes a problem, basically. Okay.
So
now,
managing stress, right?
Go ahead.
Okay, managing stress properly. Scheduling your day, your to-do list, in the to-do list, which is of most priority today, and at what time am I at the best of this game of doing this. I think that also helps. It's not just about finishing everything we have on our table. It is about when and how do I finish what I have on my table.
True. Yeah. Now, beyond finances, what other common factors contribute to poor mental health among men? Beyond the finances, as we've identified that's one of the major, especially here in Nigeria. What are other factors responsible?
Culture.
Also.
Okay, so explain.
Culture. One, you're growing up, and like we mentioned, I want to build on that. And your father is telling you, the men are to work, the women are to just be in the kitchen. We hear that a lot. The man is already overburdened with responsibility at a very young age. Sometimes some men will tell you they didn't even live a normal life. They started taking up the responsibility of the home as young as age 12. So number one is having a normal childhood. Let the child play when he needs to play. Let them work where they need to work. Don't put gender to the table. I like some the realities we're seeing these days where mothers will tell you, I'm raising better men for my daughter-in-laws. I don't want my child being a burden on somebody else's daughter.
So who's raising the man?
Who is raising the man? The woman. So the place of, oh, we are all to do these dishes together. We are all to do this cooking. Like when you say that you are included, that's not that you are excluded as this is a responsibility of a man as young as a child. You are included in everything. Then you grow. You see, you're seeing what dad is doing, you're seeing what mom is doing. Like, who are we raising? I'm already like our generation, yes. we know that we are getting better at this, but at least let's break this now.
The cultural barrier.
Yes, culture. That is one. Then 2, for men, I think we expect, or we put so much expectations for ourselves. We need to take a break and breathe. I want to eat. We can't do everything at the same time.
Yeah, James Bond.
You're sorting this bill.
You can't sort.
Honestly, you're sorting this bill.
You want to break down on every side.
Of course,
not just the mental state. That's true.
It's
just like when people say, I have houses, I have 24 houses.
You can only sleep in one room.
You can only sleep in one room. Even that house that you have,
it's just a room.
50 rooms. It's just one room. Except you want to put your head in one room, your leg in this side, and your neck. I'm thinking in what, how do you that? So I like the fact that you came with that concept, that the truth is, live your life part-time, live around your means, be contented, and then prioritize in some cases so that you have a safe landing, and then you don't feel practically being choked or overwhelmed when situations place themselves. So that it also guides you in your expression to your emotions, because at those points you see people triggering and talking out of you, and at some point you who's the spouse, you're like what did I do to you? You know, so all of that plays out a lot. It's just
sorry, I just remember something I heard recently, and the man was saying that if I die now, you will live your life. Like, the only thing you see after your work, the pressure, the stress, the efforts you've put into it is death. After all of this is death. That's the escape. There is no place of, can I just relax? Oh, this weekend or this hour per day, it's family time. Because all of these things even release the feel-good hormone in the brain. You're with your children, even if it's just talk. You may not have the energy to jump around and do other things, but just have a conversation. How was school this week? How are you doing? Like, all those sweet things releases the feel-good hormone naturally to us, and that also helps us to feel fulfilled and accomplished. Because if a man is not feeling fulfilled and accomplished, there is nothing they would really do that they feel like they've done anything. It's always like it's never enough.
Okay, so I like the fact that you mentioned around sweet talks, relaxation, family time, family bonding time. I think most African men have a challenge based on the roots or the foundation they started with from families. Because I've heard men over time, over the years, speak on this issue. Let me use my father as an instance, his late blessed memory. I think that was one of the concerns. He I don't know, when you speak to some issues, he'll tell you, my father used to be like this. My father used to be like this. When you go to speak to him about issue, my dad was loving and caring and all that, but he had his own restrictions based on the cultural build-up he had. And I think I like what we're doing today, because it's also speaking to young boys,
so many upcoming generation of men
who are going to be fathers, who needs to change the trajectory of things and live to fulfillment. Because like you said, the escape route for most men, when they work so hard, they feel rejection, they feel pain. After all, it is your mother you will go to. Your mother will not even remember. I remember speaking to a colleague who said to me, he said he was really ill. And then, of course, as father made provision, ensured that the children were done with school, got jobs. And he was ill, and none of his child could have time to say to him. And he said to himself, if I die today, I will never forgive people, because I labored all my life for you. So I think it is time we start changing that narrative for men, that friendships, bonds, family systems, support systems of family should help them open up and speak. And there should be one person at least in the family who is your child, either your brother, your mother, your wife, one person you can open up to. And then when you have your children, quality time helps you bond. Communication helps you bond. And then you're able to grow with everybody. Ease off the stress. Like you said, the hormones is also part of it as well. That's what we have you as an expert. So it doesn't mean that we're just talking from our perspective. We're talking from your idea as an expert, that this helps to relax. It's not about drinking. It's not about taking substance. But those bonds will help you that at your old age, you're fulfilled. You're not just looking at, they're looking forward to the escape route of fulfillment, that you've lived the life, you've seen your children fulfill destiny just like yours has been also seen them, and then you one day sleep and don't wake up and you're happy even in your spirit soul. And so that basically I'm just saying, let's look friendship support systems. One concern expert like you often raise is the fact that loneliness amongst men. It's a very serious thing where you see at old age, you see men lonely. Because at that point when you need a companion, you need a child who loves you. I'm like, Daddy, come around. Mommy, come around. You know, most times, oh my God, you see what yes. I think we start advocating for fatherhood to go to.
A friend of mine was thinking about how he saw the lady went to Canada and was in the Omugo. He was like, I should also be there because he saw her having a very good time. So the cultural barriers are just things.
I think we start changing that. Maybe we should start changing that mindset. Even when you're going for Omugo, the man also maybe the woman should go do the 1 month help. The man should also go come back, and the man should also go and bond with the grandchild because there's this. I don't know what you guys call it, but there's this bond between grandchildren and their grandparents, and it helps the grandfather even live more. I know my dad with the children he's something else. You when he's with the grandchildren, so I think men should live beyond the lonely space and bond. I'm practically doing your job. So I want to know, why do many men find it difficult, that's why Bill getting, to build that support system or maintain the emotionally supportive friendship that should help them to live a fulfilled life instead of a lonely life?
They are supposedly too busy.
Busy doing what?
Working.
What kind of work? What are they working for?
Providing for you.
I don't see why you should go out. I'm not downplaying your efforts. Honestly, it's a lot providing, but there should be times where we at least come together. You say, Daddy, come and help me with my mom. Go and meet your mommy.
Is that not
Daddy, my friends, go and meet your mommy. Daddy, my tissue, go and meet your mommy now.
That is busy. It starts from there.
So,
no. There's a little
conversations. No, that bond. And there's a place of your child telling you, Daddy, I can write one. I feel like even in that your busy moment, just 2 minutes, you bring your pencil, write one. You write one like, it's not like that. My auntie says like this. Those little time, those little grains, those little smiles. Even you are happy with the school fees you are paying because you are seeing it right in front of you. Like your money is not going to waste. All of those little moments matters. That is what they grew up to see that I'll call my daddy. A child was being told recently, I'm not going to play with you, and he said, don't play with me, I'll put my daddy and my baby. You know, when the parents heard it sounded like, the facial, my facial expressions, right? And it's one of them like, that means they've actually created an environment where you can say there is love as well as friendship. So I don't know, if you're telling a 3-year-old that I'm not going to play, he's telling I'll play with my mommy, don't play with me. That shows that there is a bond in the family.
Yes.
And as a father, you are at work, you are remembering your child writing one.
You have a smile on your face.
You're having a very busy day, a very hectic day, a very annoying day that it's just like you should just blurt out. Please lock your door in the office, cry. When you're done, you remember your child writing one. And when they come and they say, Daddy, you paid for ballet in school, you're not even seeing what ballet looks like at all.
True.
Create time.
The men I know actually don't even see the results there. They only pay school fees, they don't do oversight. And I
like the fact that Mota is actually
it's the fact. Exactly. There's no escaping reality. It's the fact that there's confronting.
And it makes it even amazing that when they come back to ask for more, they're not saying it like, I'm just working. You're saying it like, okay, there is a result. Don't worry, Daddy does not have it now.
At the moment.
But don't worry, before the end of the week, you call your wife and say, oh babe, your son asked, our son asked for this, and like, I don't have it yet, but it's not like, I'll get it.
Because you're sensed already.
Yes, just speak. I don't have it now. Like, there's a place of understanding. In as much as we have regimes that are so, your home should be your safest space.
True.
I like using the word safe because sometimes we have safe space amongst friends, but the place where you can sleep with your 2 eyes closed and you say, I don't have it yet, but before the week runs down, how can we manage before salary is paid? For those who are salary earners, I don't expect you to get me money in the middle of the month. Is there anything we can do? Like
so pedal
talk. And when the child comes back and say, Daddy got this, okay? You don't have it yet, but Daddy got it. Like, give me chocolate, my guy. And that relationship, like, just relax.
Douses the tension.
True.
Relax,
True.
yes.
I like for us to also explore the area of support system, because I know men cannot do it alone. So how important is it for men to have trusted friends, family members, or mentors that they can work with in managing their mental stress and emotional well-being generally?
All right, I would want to start from the home before I go outside. The first thing is there should be safe space at home.
Okay.
I have somebody you can, even if you're not married, you should have maybe mom, dad, or siblings that you can talk to. Let's start from there, because whoever we have in the society today, we're a product of a house, of a family. So if we are able to do that in the house, where you're stressed, you're exhausted, you're worried, you are confused, in fact terrified about something, because sometimes it doesn't have to be so sweet, and you can just call and say, Mom, I'm tired. And she's like, what is it? It's exhausting. I remember one of my siblings would call home and say, sis, I'm not sure this lecturer is my friend though. He's a guy. And he'll tell you, the course is hard though. You know, little things like that. And from there, solutions
comes up.
You just say, why not do it like this? That means you don't have to carry the burden alone. Why not try this way? Why not try that? Let's go outside the home. The friends. I like to tell people, not everybody in your space is your friend.
True.
I can have a work relationship with you. I can have a lecture room relationship with you. It doesn't make you my friend. So if you are going to be my friend, that means you are somebody I should be able to come to your room after lectures. For those who are single and I say, I'm tired. And it's like, what happened? There are some friends that when they see us, your facial expression from afar, the first thing my friend will say is, who collected your bread today? Madam. And I'm like, that course is hard. And that is my friend. So if you don't have somebody in your space where you can speak to wholeheartedly, of course you have to be very careful not to be someone that is going to use your words against you.
That's someone concerned.
That's where you now say, this is my friend. You have to define whoever is in your space.
True.
So that is one for friends. Then for those who are married, yes, we could still have friends outside our partners that we speak to. Like friends we've had for 15, 20 years before we got married are not going to be non-existent because we are now married. No. But now the question is, how do they actually help us get through that season? Are there people that will tell you, okay, you go work and now man you be. No. But there's a place of, it is well, my guy. Like, let's validate that some of these things are hard. We are human. If it was easy to walk through all of these, then it should not be hard at all.
True.
So when you have someone that can tell you it is well, did you even know I did that contract last week? It was very tough. It was this person that helped me. When you begin to understand that even the person you're speaking to actually sought help
through somebody else,
to get, or maybe they speak to you, guy, I'm confused. What do you think I should do? Like, people brainstorm, not that guy go do that's run madam they wait for house. Then that is it with friends. Then community, the people we relate with in the society. Some persons we cannot rely on the place of religion. Some persons find solace in the mosques, some persons find solace in the church, like prayer. Those are also part of coping strategies. Some persons will pray. Then suppose once I cry it out on the altar, once I take my beads for the Muslim brethren and I pray on my mat, I feel relieved. All of those too, we don't rule out. Yes, religion is also a coping strategy. So as an individual, what I have to say is that sit down, think it through deeply. What is it that really works for me? Because what works for Mr. A may not work for Mr. B. And also, when the tax is very tough on the table, then go back to the drawing board. Have I done something like this before? How was I able to do it? Let's not just keep running a sprint like we've not failed before and we ruled or we reigned over it and we passed and we continued. Okay, for those who have done this before, how are they able to do it? For those who are currently doing it, how are they doing it? Then we should have mentors. I like to say that mentors are not people you don't have access to. So people tell you their mentor is in America. A mentor you cannot call and say, hello sir, hello ma. Your mentor should be people that are actually within your, like, you don't have to live in the same place, but you can reach to them one-on-one and say, oh, I'm stuck with this. How can I go about it? How can you help me? Who can you speak to?
In the immediate.
For me to meet or speak to, or what do you like? Ideas. That's just to say from the home. The home rules the society. When we raise better people, we have a better society.
True.
Our friends, families, our commission family, religious setting for those who are religious, Muslim brethren, Christian brethren, and also mentors.
Okay, so talking about mentors and all this awareness we've created, wasn't that despite creating all this awareness, many men still hesitate to seek professional help? Just like you mentioned, in therapy, you see lots of women than men. And we need the men's mental state to be intact because over the years we've been training women for a good home. But it's time we're turning the tables out. Look at me very well. That's my problem. We want to turn the narrative or change the narrative of things because we want to have a healthy society, a healthy home. Because look around, the rate of divorce, drama in domestic violence, both male and female, is high. That's a problem. That's because a lot of people are not speaking up. A lot of people are not seeking help. And we want men especially, you know, women usually go for it, but the men, we're speaking to the men.
We still go,
Please go. What are some of those biggest barriers preventing the men from accessing the mental health care in terms of attention, you know, to be able to enable them pour out themselves? Because the minute you're able to, just like we've been speaking in the last few minutes, the minute they're able to pour out themselves, there's healing from within. So what's the barrier? What's the thing that usually makes them feel, please leave that professional class thing that will help me? What are they saying? So I'm always asking myself, why is it difficult? Even in family, for instance, where there are issues of childbearing, and the wife is saying, babe, let's go to the hospital.
Let's see a therapist.
Let's see a therapist. Let's see a family doctor. The man will first tell you, I'm busy. I have one contract I'm chasing that is bringing us through. I don't have to provide money. So you sit as a woman and say, this thing is needed by the both of us because it's our foundation, it's our home. Why is it difficult? She talks, and at some point she gets tired and she holds on to herself and she starts seeking help elsewhere. So how can men begin to understand the gravity of neglecting professional help?
And what are those barriers that hinders them from speaking out in the first place?
I think the first thing I would want to say is them even realizing that help is here.
Okay.
Because if I don't see this thing as helpful, I won't go for it. So to all our men who are listening to us, please, help is here. We are no longer in the century where we bottle up. It's important for us to talk now, and that is why we have professionals. That is why we have professionals. And another thing I would want to say is, when you are coming, please come with an open mind. Some of us, that's one of the barriers. We come with the mindset of, maybe my wife have said I should go.
Just go because of
I'm here so that peace can reign.
Do what you want to do to me.
So do what you want to do to me now. So when we are able to understand that we should come open, and some of us have read plenty things online. Thanks to AI. So it feel like, and tell me to sleep. I sleep. Okay, I should eat. I'm eating well. Hurry now. Like people telling you hurry, like they're rushing somewhere. Come with an open mind. Even if you know these things before, there is always something new in some things that we know. And even if there is nothing new, there's a different dimension of how that thing will be explained to us. Come with an open mind. And also for men, we should not take it from the place of who is going to speak to me. What do they know?
They know a lot.
Yes.
That's why you're going there.
Yes. So
pay money.
That's why they don't want to go at all.
Yeah, I'm going to go and spend money for
just to talk. I'm just going to talk. So what is so special there?
But Jumoke, this is actually something that's predominant in Africa more. But there's the hard to. I'm looking for the right words. I don't put for this. Mutaro bites me. When there's a lot of resistance, the African men find it difficult. You know, but for the Western world, I see a lot of people open up themselves to therapy and all that. They still have their limitations or drag their feet, but not as dominant as Africa. Is it our culture?
Of course, I'm building up on that. Is it the culture, or is it? For me, I think it's mostly awareness. I don't. You guys are doing a great job, but do we have? What's the awareness gap that has not made this men know that they need to find help?
Okay, the awareness gap is one of this that we are doing. We don't know how many men are listening right now and how many men will still tune in later to watch after. So the thing is, for us, it's culture. African men, traditional men. So the mindset, you expect me now as a chair to use my red card to come and play tinkle. No! So culture, I think culture has done a lot. Let me just end it there. And we think we need, like you mentioned, more awareness. This is going on. Some of this has been going on before now, and this will continue. I like the fact that some places of worship are even including mental health into services now. I've heard of, I've had an opportunity to attend some where they just make the service or this thing after prayer time for the Muslims about mental health tips, just so that this awareness grew around to the four corners of our nation, Nigeria. And another thing we cannot but rule out again is, aside culture, is pressure. Like you mentioned, tradition. I want to do so much. I don't have the time for anything that is not bringing money to my table. We hear that a lot from our men. This thing is not bringing money. In fact, I will go and spend more. I don't have that time to spare. Then another thing for us is we don't even see the need. Some will tell you, I could just take paracetamol, I go bath, sleep. But we also need to understand that the place of medication misuse. Sometimes the paracetamol we are taking every time we feel the headache is there may not even be what our body needs at that time. So we may need to learn some other relaxation techniques. Like yoga? Yoga is great, yes. Music is amazing. Some men will even tell you, pause that song, pause it. I'm thinking of how to make money. You are playing music. You see, opening up to a lot of things that looks like it doesn't make sense, but they're actually the things that we need. And another thing is sleep, like we've mentioned. Sleep. Men don't sleep. They sleep angry, they wake up angry because of I don't know what we are chasing. But one thing is our health first. And mental health, according to the World Health Organization, of course, occupies 1/3 of our general well-being. So if you're saying mental, you're talking of physical well-being, emotional, social. And one thing is where mental health is, it can actually cause some other things. If you're beginning to get so heightened all the time, you're worried, you're scared.
And then that leads to hypertension.
Other things. So then you're just there breathing, you're not interested in anything that could make you happy. You begin to lose interest in the things that you used to do as a young guy. It begins to look less meaningful to us. Those things too are things that we can look out for. Not forgetting the place of our social well-being. Yes.
Now, looking forward, because I think we are approaching the end of this conversation. For men now who are watching, what will be your message to them as they take home in terms of how they manage their mental health and in terms of the awareness of this month and even beyond? What's your message to men basically out there?
So to men who are listening to us right now, please take a deep breath. Breathe. Thank you for breathing. Breathe. 1, 2, please communicate. Take it easy, one step at a time. The expenses, if you keep running today, is not going to end today. The more we sort one, the more we have another to run into. You're paying bills tomorrow, you're paying bills next tomorrow. Rest, communicate, and please seek help. Talking is not a sign of weakness. In fact, it shows that strength. You have enough strength with you to be able to even decide within you to say, oh, I want to seek help. That is one. Then when you begin to notice that you're withdrawn, you're not interested in activities that are of interest to you before, you find it difficult to sleep, or you sleep too much, less appetite, or eating too much, not interested in anything, you're persistently worrying about things, you're beginning to feel your heartbeat, you're panting most of the times, you're waking up like you're started up from bed or please seek help. So I think I would end it there, seek help. And help is here, please, seek help.
Amazing, thank you so much. Well, I when you said we sleep angry, wake up angry, that means someone to tell you woke up on the left-hand side of the bed.
It's relative, you go to bed maybe by 12, 11, 12. You wake up by 4, 5. How would you not be angry?
So your sleep is less than 6 hours. So
you get the point.
Your body's already doing bing, bing, bing.
You're agitated already.
All right. Interesting discussion here. We've had a whole lot. We know that there's need to find a balance in the long run. That's our advocacy talk today, Mukhtar.
Yes, a very big thank you to Jumoke Esther Oluto for coming and delivering an amazing session.
Thank you.
Well, it's been an amazing conversation, and of course, I hope the men are taking 1 or 2 back home, because I was really, really interested in this, because I want men who understand what the future holds for you and not just sit uptight and stay lonely in your aged or elderly years of your life. Thank you so much, Jumoke. Well, we understand that mental health is health. Seeking support is not weakness, and having honest conversations can make a meaningful difference in people's lives.
Of course, thank you very much for joining Global Money. It's been an amazing session, Anita, right from the beginning till now, which is the end. I enjoyed every bit of it. And as a man, of course, I have taken notes. I will implement some of them.
I'm going to start paying attention to emotional well-being. And I hope that you're just, because sometimes in the work environment, we see that tension comes around and you're asking yourself, is this man emotionally stable? Because if he's stable, he'll be sounding better. So every woman out there, start paying attention to
start supporting the men. It's much important.
Wait, now let me land the talk. Start supporting the men. Let's get them out of the space of loneliness. Let's get them to fulfill and not see that as an escape route, because they provide all the way for us. Amazing time here on Global Morning. Thank you for being a part of the program. Thank you for staying with us from top to bottom. And it's time to say our goodbyes. Have a lovely Sunday ahead of you. I am Aniti Patrick.
And I am Mukhtar Kasim. A very big thank you. Bye for now.